Hello there fellow modelers, Steve here, and the last video I made was January at the beginning of this year, so it's been quite a while what with things going on. And now I've got quite a few kits finished. These is basically kits that I started in the era of the first lockdown last year, and I've managed to get them all finished and try to avoid starting a load of others before I've got these finished. And I've got some kits that I've bought, which is very few, but I'll show you them anyway because they're the things that I wanted, and one of them might be of interest. It's not something that I normally build. So I'll start off with the one that I've got there because it's on a, it's basically it was a Vought Kingfisher, a monogram 1/48 scale, 1/48 scale that I started last year, and it was originally for Frankie Day's appreciation group build, but it was long gone finished, and it's just been put to one side because it was very hard to do. And I've got it resting on what looks like a ship's catapult. I'll give you a go of when I describe it anyway. And that's it there. It's monogram 1/48 scale Vought. I think it's an O2U or O2 something Kingfisher, which was the float plane that was used mainly on US battleships and carriers. There was a land plane version with wheels, but it was mostly the float version, and I think it was the Royal Navy or the Royal Air Force operated it for a while, but it never caught on with our forces. Now this is the pre-war camouflage. Now I seen this at Telford in 2019, and it was built on top of the USS Arizona's aft turret, and I thought, I've got a kit like that, I fancy doing that. And as you can see, it's pre-war camouflage. Quite a lot of detail in the cockpit with the pilots. I painted the pilots. I'm not one for painting pilots, but I thought I'd give it a go. It looked a bit empty sitting on there. I did have one thing to have a plastic disc there with it spinning ready to take off, but I never bothered. But it's turned out quite well. I'm very well pleased with it. Pardon. And the decals I got with the kit, they were absolutely useless. They were cracked, so I sourced some from the spares box, and it's turned out pretty well. I'm very pleased with it. So I'll tick that off the list. Right, what can I have now? I'll get this out of the way first. I started this last year as well. And it's my favourite aeroplane, an FA-18 Hornet. This, the markings on this, I bought them I think at Telford about 2 or 3 years ago, and they were originally meant for an F-16. But I've put it as a tribute because when you consider that about 2/3 of the pilots in the American volunteer group were from the Marine Corps and US Navy, so that's my tribute. And the decals, that the plane there, that went on fantastic. It really blended down. I hardly had to use any solution at all. And I put a pilot in. Lots of detail in the cockpit. I even put straps on the seat as well, used Tamiya tape. See if you can see inside the cockpit. Not really. As you can see, it's fully armed. This is the, I think this is just the A model, this. It's not the Super Hornet. And there's the bloodshed on the nose. And I've got the shark's mouth on the nose. And the flying tiger motif on the tail. And these, that's the markings of, that's the Hells Angels squadron. Because there was Hells Angels, Panda Bears and Adam and Eve's. They were the three squadrons of the American Volunteer Group. Another one for me Hornet collection. Beautiful. And sticking with the Hornet, I've got another one here. This is a D model, and it's based on the markings. It's in the markings of the Royal Malaysian Air Force, because they bought 8 Hornets. I think they were refurbished ones from the Navy or the Marine Corps, with the spares, instruction leaflets and weapons. Because I think the Royal Malaysian Air Force, they operate I think it's MiG-29s or Su-27s, so they've bought some Hornets to supplement their fleet. And it's painted, the markings I got were a gunship grey. Now I hand painted that, but it did say that they were heavily weathered, like the United States Navy and Marine Corps cousins. And I think that's turned out okay, that. There's a bit colour on the fin now, with the fin flash and the roundel, which is there. So it's not typical low visibility, because you wouldn't be able to see anything. But another fantastic build. Right, what's next? This one's I started, I think it was a couple of years ago. And it's the Douglas A4D Skyhawk. Able dog, as they called it. This was I think it was a Hobbycraft kit. Colourful 1960s camouflage. And I thought I might have went a bit overboard with the weathering for the exhaust there, but I was talking to a few lads in my model club, and they said that this aircraft was very dirty. Plus, with it being in sea, it's not very clean aircraft to begin with. I'll show you the underneath, because they carried a hell of a lot of ordnance. And they fought in the Korean and the Vietnam War. And I did try it with the panel lines there, because they were prominent but not too deep. So what I did was I just used a very sharp pencil and went in, and I think it's turned out okay. I'm not really one for doing pre-shading or panel lines, but I thought I'd give it a try with that, and it's worked out okay. Very nice build. Right, what now? I started this a couple of years ago as well. and it's the Revell 1/32 scale Supermarine Seafire. Pardon. And I did some detail on the engine. As you can see, you could leave the panel lines off. Dry brushed it, and it's okay. It's not a very I suppose if you had the time you could do it with spark plugs and leads and whatnot, but I just painted that and it's turned out okay. Now it did have on the photo on the cover with the chin the chin with the tropical filter, but it didn't have the one in this kit, so I've sourced a couple of photos online of Seafires in the European theatre markings, and some of them didn't have the chin radiator on, because most of them that didn't have the chin one on had British Pacific Fleet markings. And I did the camouflage with the airbrush and the blue tack method, and it's turned out very well. You did get a pilot with it, but I made the mistake of putting the fuselage together before you put the pilot in, and obviously the pilot wouldn't fit, so I've just left them out, because you can't. I can see it, but I can even see the rudder pedals, but you obviously can't. Well, you might be able to. I'll have a go. There, you might be able to see them, and the control panel is it did have a decal to put on, but you can't really see it. It's obviously a thoroughbred, but it wasn't very well suited to carrier operations due to this very short width run landing gear. But once it was airborne, it could hold its own. And most of them, to start off with, were converted Spitfires, which I think this one was. But as the war got on, they started building them from Seafires up, designed primarily as Seafires. It's a while since I've made a Spitfire or a Seafire. Right, what's next? I'll put this up because and I'll get rid of them. Now the last video I did, I just finished the SES Jeep, but I did say that I had a diorama, but it was downstairs drying. But now it's been mounted on the diorama, and there it is, and that looks absolutely brilliant. I'm well pleased with that. The base is just my usual bit of plasterboard, a couple of rocks out the garden, and the palm tree was of a set of 4 that I've got, and I looked online about how to make it look like a palm tree because they were very plastic and glossy, and it'd give us the right colours to paint, and it's turned out very well. And the base has just got sand from a bag of sand that I got from a building. Oh, it was about 4 or 5 years ago now, and I've just kept it and I use it now and again. Desert scene. And obviously the Jeep, I showed it to you on my last video, and that was great to build that. SES in the desert. This one It's another one of the old Airfix kit cars. This is an MG BGT, I think. Classic British sports car. A lot of detail inside. The bonnet does come off, but I think I glued it on because the engine was, it was a basic engine, but it was too small to put any detail in, spark plugs and whatnot. It's a bit dodgy there with the wheel, but it's an old kit, so what do you expect? And you can see the truck wheels in the background, but they're for another kit that I'm doing, but it's not finished yet. So that's the MG BGT. And here's another one that I did for, it's for Robert Artanov's Anything Airfix group build. And it was this one, which was Little Nelly from the Bond film You Only Live Twice. And this was a really simple kit to build, except I had very much bother with the nose there, because it was in the instructions it said put the pilot in first. He doesn't look anything like Sean Connery, but put the pilot in first and then glue the two halves together. But I thought, oh well, it's I glued the two halves together and put it in. I had to cut it a bit to get it in, and then the pilot wouldn't fit in, so it's just had to be modified. And he's got his hand on the throttle there, but the control stick, I had to take his arm off, put it on the control stick and glue his arm back on again. But it's a fantastic little kit. They're very hard to get hold of. I don't know where I picked this up from. I think I was online, or I might have bought it at one of the shows. But Little Nelly, and as you see, it's not like Sean Connery, it's just a guy, but I think he's Sean Connery anyway. So that's Little Nelly. And the last one I've got, which is another airliner that I've built. This is a Douglas DC-7. Now when I started this, the decals were rolled up and I thought they're never going to work them. So what I did was I put them on the windowsill first because they were a bit yellow, and cut them out and flattened them because they were, it was a while I'd finished the kit and it was just put to one side before I put the decals on. But as soon as I put the cheat line with United on and the windows was in two separate bits, and I put that bit on first, the rear bit with DC-7 mainliner, and I thought this has went on great. If the rest's like this, and the rest they bedded down really well, just a bit hard round the nose, and it didn't have any glass in, so what I did was I just put some plastic in the back, filled it and sanded it and painted it. I think it's like a silver colour. It's not really, but the rest of the kit is fine. And you come with a set of flight stairs, and you did come with a little pilot that you could put in the cockpit with his arm, like hello there. But the pilot, I mean, I'm judging by, it's probably about that big, and I thought there's no way I'm going to paint that, so I've just left it out. And that was a really nice kit to build. It was a really old Revell kit. So what have I done? Ah yes, forgot about that. This is another one, another kit that I built. This was for Martin Lamont's. I think it was anything Luftwaffe. We love Luftwaffe or something like that. So you could build anything that served with the Luftwaffe. And if you watch this over in the States, Martin, I know it was your birthday yesterday, I think, or the day before, so happy birthday. Right, this, that was it. Obviously all of his builds, when he does his group builds, they've got to be Revell kits. This is the Revell Stroke Italieri Heinkel HE11 treble one, sorry. Now this went together really well, and I loved the camouflage. And you could get you had a choice of 4. I think there was one in Russia, one in the Balkans, one in France, and the Mediterranean one as a torpedo bomber, which I thought was good, so I did it in that colours. And the mottled camouflage was just did with a brush. And I was saying to the lads at the model club, I says, I'm glad I had the mask set for that, because I do not fancy doing that in just Tamiya tape and cutting it. It would have taken me ages. But a really nice Luftwaffe aircraft. So that was for his group build. That was early on this year, I think. Right, what now? Consult me list. Ah yes, this one, which I've started about 2 years ago. Pardon. It's the, I think it's the Trumpeter US Army truck. Now I don't know which one it is, a big one. Now I bought this a couple of years ago, and I planned on doing a Bastogne diorama with it. But of course when I opened it, it didn't have the canopy, yet it did on the cover. So it's been put to one side for a bit. And I bought another kit. It was an Italieri one that had the cover, but it didn't fit. So I've did this. It's not doing it properly yet. I used the kit, the canopy out of the Italieri kit as a template, and I've made that. It's not toilet paper or kitchen roll. It's the stuff you get in shoes, and I just used watered down glue, painted it on, left it overnight, did another set, left it overnight, and then put just normal glue on, PVA glue, and it seems to have pulled it off the canopy. There's the canopy I used. It was out the other kit, just as a template, and it's come out really well. And I've made the inside, I've got to spray that olive green, or olive drab, sorry, and then I can fit that on there, and then I can start on the diorama. I've got the figures, and I'm going to do it as a Bastogne Christmas Day 1944, loads of snow, so you can really disguise all this if it's wrong. But that's a good way to do it, that, and I think it looks like canvas, doesn't it? I hope so anyway. I don't care, I think it looks like canvas. You keep seeing them wheels, I'll have to show that kit. So that's that the US truck, which is an ongoing project. That's actually the kit from what the wheels are off. An American 4x4 truck. But it's not finished yet, it's work in progress. Right, so I'll show you what kits I've bought. Right, first one, I bought this online. I've never heard of this, what was it? Nostalgic Heroes. I think it's probably a Far Eastern kit. But it's a Mark I Ford Capri. And I've loved this car. And it's not a bad kit, not loads of flash on, it's probably a very old one. But I put in a bid for that and I thought, I'm going to get it. And I had about 2 minutes to go and somebody else put a bid in of 50 pence. So I waited 50 seconds, 40 seconds, 30, put in a bid of £1, went through, 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, you have bought this item, great! I don't know when I'll start that, but that's a lovely kit, that. Now, I had a trip to a local model shop which I've never been to. With me living in Newcastle, this one is in Chesley Street, which is County Durham, which is basically a bus ride away. Because I'd heard about it off a couple of lads in the model club, and I was low on paints, so I needed a lot of paints and accessories and maybe some kits if I could find them. So what I bought there was, I had a list, of course you've got to have a list, and I'd been after one of them for a while, a German Tiger 1 mid-production. Fantastic tank, that, so I'll enjoy building that. And this one caught my eye. USS Lexington CV2 that was converted from the battle cruiser USS Lexington along with the USS Saratoga, and I think it entered service in 1925, I think, after it had been converted. And they paved the way for shipborne operations with the US Navy, and it was tragically sunk at the Battle of the Coral Sea. But there were big ships then, as you can see by the funnel. And it still has its 4 8-inch guns, which were a white elephant really on an aircraft carrier. But I've seen that and I thought, yeah, that's good. And something else which caught my eye, it's not something that I normally build, it's a bit out of my comfort zone really, but I've got half of it finished, and it was that. Now FMG 39, FMG 39 Fuse 62D Würzburg. Now I'd heard of the Würzburg or Würzburg first around German radar, and I think one of them was captured by the British paratroopers at Broomval. And it's a simple enough kit, but it didn't have any figures in, so I'll have to source some figures. But the kit itself is quite simple to build, and I've got the base, the 2 bits of the base, they're painted, they're drying at the moment, so that'll be interesting. That's interesting, that's something that I don't normally do. And this, which I had to get because one of the lads in our model club got us and he brought it in. And it's the Meng FA-18E Super Hornet. Now this kit is just fantastic. Everything is there. You could literally just pull some glue in a box, shake it up and it'll come out. I've looked through all of it, and of course the decals are fantastic. You've got a choice of decals. I think there's this one, which is, I think it's Felix the Cat VFA 31, and you actually get the decals for Maverick's Hornet off the film when it comes out.